Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you as always for stopping by. I'm grateful. I hope the week's gone well. It's been very hot. We've had massive spikes in temperature around this sort of time, midday. A little bit like Bitcoin and avocado prices this week, simply gone off the charts. But fortunately we got some rain and we've all been waiting for the rainy season like we do every year here in Nairobi. Let's move on to political reflections. President Trump said this on the China trade deal. It's a massive deal. Could be one of the, I guess it is, if you think about it, the biggest deal ever made. This is the granddaddy of them all. There can't be a deal like this no matter where you look. There can't be a deal like this. Xi has played President Trump like Yehudi played the violin. The White House is not expected to announce a date on Thursday for a meeting between Trump and Xi. And there have been at least 20 positive tweets, messages, pronouncements around this every single day. And that leads me to believe if there ever is going to be a buy the rumor, sell the fact situation, then this is surely it. China's J-11 fighters over Taiwan Strait sent a clear message to Trump. But then I saw the Taiwanese president flying around in one of our Air Force jets as a response to that. Live streaming violent crime and acts of extremism in Australia could land social media executives up to 3 years in jail. And this follows on a very sophisticated response from Jacinda Ardern, the New Zealand Prime Minister, and her moral compass is true and is the truest of all leadership we have currently in the world, in my belief. They are the publisher, not just the postman, she said. And I said about her, if you want to measure a soft power leapfrog, keep an eye on the Kiwis and this remarkably sophisticated epitome of 21st century girl power. Mike Pence warned Turkey that its reckless move to buy a Russian missile defense system risks diminishing the nation's role within NATO. And this is another geopolitical red line that's being crossed, and I think President Erdogan will learn what Norman Lamont learnt, and that the Turkish lira is teetering at the precipice, and it doesn't take much to push it over the edge. And I said if the lira crashes, and which looks very likely, the infection will spread out of Istanbul. I returned to this article about control the yield curve, decide the future, which was the financial warfare strategy planned by particularly MBZ with respect to Qatar. I said these Gulf boys have had time now to up their control the yield curve game. And on the 1st of April, I was saying the latest signal of stress is being emitted by Turkey, where Erdogan pronounced, "I'm in charge," the day after the overnight raid clocked an eye-popping 1,336%. And I think, he's got a King Canute syndrome. So many leaders over centuries insist on fighting the markets, and they always lose. Mrs. Thatcher told the House of Commons many years ago, there is no way in which you can buck the market. And you can't. Take you back to the previous bout of financial warfare and pressure. That was around August 2018. I called my article then Cold Turkey and was quoting President Erdogan, who says, even if they got dollars, we got our people and our God. And I said in the markets, that's called a Hail Mary pass. In the same article, I said President Trump, who previously was an avowed linguistic warfare specialist, he still is, has embraced coercive sanction and financial warfare, and that he's relishing his financial warfare strategies. And therefore, I think Trump is going to fancy having a pop here at Erdogan. The Mullah anonymous leakers are unscrupulous prosecutors. They conducted an investigation that was a disgraceful, overzealous exercise of government coercion. No case of collusion or obstruction. Now they are leaking what they can't prove. They are cowards and liars. This is about the Mueller report, which was interpreted in about 2 apostrophes by the Attorney General. And now the people who put together the report and actually had put together press bite-sized synopsis of that same report are beginning to think about leaking the whole report. Then, in response to that tweet by Rudy Giuliani, there was this tweet from Chris Geidner. What did they leak, Rudy? Shouldn't we just see the report, Rudy, so we can all decide what they found and whether it matters for ourselves, Rudy? And then I took just a quick leap down a wormhole of Giuliani's Saturday Night Live. I guess I was a legal genius the whole time, Giuliani said, and of all my mind games worked. If you want to know what my mind games were, you have to ask the family of goblins who lives in my head and holds open my eyes. President Trump, I was the most innocent human being, he tells Sean Hannity, when they thought they'd sort of buried this report 10 feet under. And at the same time, the entire claque, WikiLeaks, Greenwald, et al., couldn't help themselves, did a Hamlet. The lady doth protest too much, methinks. And I was quoting W.B. Yeats, the ceremony of innocence is drowned, the best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Quoted The Second Coming, which is one of my favorite poems, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Surely some revelation is at hand, surely the second coming is at hand. For some reason I went down a world's end times type wormhole over the weekend, and I wrote a piece called World's End. I quoted Antonio Gramsci. The crisis consists precisely in the fact that the old is dying and the new cannot be born. And I said there's certainly a fantasiacally, even apocalyptic mood afoot. Go back to 5th of December, where I wrote out the Russian collusion story. I called it non-linear and other things, but essentially it was in plain sight. And I called my article, We Have a DV-8 Tomahawk, borrowing on a Don DeLillo novel, which is really good, as all his books are. Ethiopian very much puts the ball back in Boeing's court after the initial E2302 accident report. This is a copy of that report from John Aglinby, who used to be here with the Financial Times and is a friend. And I wrote on the 18th of March that the lack of touch and finesse displayed by Boeing over the last 7 days is mind-boggling. Stayed resolutely behind the curve from the get-go. The message Boeing sent was that safety came second, a simply untenable position. And I was praising Ethiopian and its government. I said they acted with a lot of decorum. Concerns about brand damage for them are overblown. In contrast, Boeing have taken a big hit, but more worryingly, the corporate's reactions to a fast-moving situation were a D-. And now the Boeing CEO says, we at Boeing, this is the 4th of April yesterday, my article was on the 18th of March. It's taken them 16 days to do what they should have done immediately. We at Boeing are sorry for the lives lost in the recent 737 accidents and are relentlessly focused on safety to ensure tragedies like this never happen again. And then I've got a friend, Alex Fuchs, and he says this: moving the engines forward in the MAX 8 for fuel efficiency altered the plane balance and required a lot of inorganic hacks, including the software intervention. Big management, communication and planning failure and handling change at best. Brand damage. Foreign Policy magazine in the United States is reporting that all of Pakistan's F-16 combat jets are accounted for, contradicting an Indian Air Force assessment that it shot down one of the jets in February. The Pakistanis actually won that encounter. What I found funniest was when they accused the Indians of eco-terrorism.